If you're reading this thinking your marriage feels stale, that your husband doesn't look at you the way he used to, that maybe you deserve to feel desired again, please stop and listen to me. I'm writing this from a one-bedroom apartment in Tulsa, surrounded by boxes I can't afford to unpack, in a place I can't afford to stay. 8 months ago, I had a 4-bedroom house in Broken Arrow, a husband who adored me, and a life I threw away because I needed strangers to tell me I was still beautiful. My name is Patricia, I'm 43 years old, and I destroyed my marriage for Instagram likes and affair partner compliments that meant nothing. This is my confession and my warning. You cannot put a price on someone who truly loves you. I learned that after I'd already sold mine for validation that evaporated the moment I needed it most. I want to tell you about my husband first, because understanding what I lost is the only way to comprehend the magnitude of my stupidity. Robert and I met in college at Oklahoma State, 2 kids from small towns who found each other in Intro to Accounting. He wasn't the most handsome guy at the party or the smoothest talker. He was the one who walked me to my dorm every night to make sure I got home safe, who brought me soup when I had the flu, who spent 3 months saving up to buy me a modest engagement ring that he presented with shaking hands and a speech he'd practiced for weeks. We got married at 23, had our daughter Emma at 25, our son Tyler at 27. Robert worked his way up from entry-level accountant to CFO of a medical supply company. I stayed home with the kids, then went back to work part-time as an office manager when they hit school age. It was a good life, a steady one. The kind our grandparents would have called blessed. For 20 years, Robert loved me with a constancy that I mistook for complacency. Every morning he'd kiss my forehead before leaving for work. Not a rushed peck, but a deliberate moment where he'd brush my hair back and really look at me. "Have a good day, beautiful," he'd say, even when I had morning breath and pillow creases on my face. Every evening he'd ask about my day and actually listen to the answer, remembering the coworker who annoyed me, the parent who complained about grades, the small victories and defeats that made up my life. Saturday mornings were for Emma's soccer games, where Robert would bring me coffee exactly how I liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream, in a thermos because he knew I'd forget to make it myself. He'd stand next to me on the sidelines, his hand finding mine without looking, commenting on Emma's improved footwork or Tyler's latest joke. Other mothers would comment on how attentive he was, how lucky I was. I'd smile and agree, but inside I'd think, this is just what marriage looks like after 20 years. Comfortable, predictable, routine. Sunday dinners were for his mother's pot roast, where Robert would deflect her passive-aggressive comments about my housekeeping or cooking. "Mom, Patty works full-time and manages 2 kids' schedules. She's amazing." He'd squeeze my knee under the table, a silent reminder that he was on my side. Always on my side. I'd grown so used to his protection that I'd forgotten not all husbands defended their wives against their mothers. Our bedroom life had shifted from can't keep our hands off each other to scheduled Saturday mornings when the kids were at practice. Robert would set his alarm early, bring me coffee in bed, and we'd make love quietly, carefully, aware of teenagers down the hall. It wasn't the passionate affairs of movies. It was tender, familiar. 2 people who knew each other's bodies like road maps of shared history. He still told me I was sexy in my ratty nightshirt. He still traced the stretch marks on my stomach with reverence, calling them my battle scars from carrying our children. "You're beautiful," he'd whisper afterward, pulling me against his chest. "You need glasses," I'd joke, but he'd tilt my chin up, force me to meet his eyes. "I see you perfectly, Patty." "I see you." But I didn't want to be seen by the same eyes that had watched me age for 20 years. I wanted fresh eyes, hungry eyes that didn't know what I looked like at 25 and couldn't make the comparison. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand. I didn't cheat because my husband was cruel or neglectful or absent. I cheated because I turned 40 and couldn't handle what I saw in the mirror. It started with small things. The gray hairs I'd been dyeing suddenly seemed to multiply overnight. The laugh lines that had been charming at 30 looked like crevices at 40. My body, which had carried 2 children and survived 2 decades of Oklahoma comfort food, didn't look like the bodies I saw on Instagram. I'd scroll through my feed, watching 20-somethings in crop tops and 40-somethings who'd clearly never eaten a carb, and feel invisible. "You're beautiful," Robert would say when he caught me frowning at myself in the mirror. "You have to say that. You're my husband." "I say it because it's true. You're more beautiful now than the day I met you." But I didn't want my husband's obligatory compliments. I wanted the world to tell me I still mattered, that I was still worthy of desire, that I hadn't become invisible just because I'd passed some arbitrary age milestone. I started small. New clothes that were tighter, younger, less appropriate for school pickup. I joined a gym, not for health, but for the body that would make people notice me again. I started an Instagram account, posting selfies with filters that erased years and pounds, hashtags like over 40 and fabulous, and age is just a number. The validation was instant and addictive. Comments poured in, "Gorgeous! Body goals! No way you're 40!" Each like was a hit of dopamine, proof that I wasn't invisible, that I still had value in a world that seemed to discard women after 35. Robert noticed the changes but attributed them to a midlife crisis. "Whatever makes you happy," he'd say, though I could see the confusion in his eyes when I spent an hour taking selfies or bought another dress that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. The gym is where I met Christopher. He was 35, divorced, with the kind of attention to physical appearance that should have been a red flag, but instead felt like validation. He noticed me. Not in the way Robert noticed me, with love and history and acceptance, but in the way men notice women they want to sleep with. His eyes traveled over my body during conversations, lingered on the parts I'd worked so hard to maintain. After 20 years of being a wife and mother, being seen as just a woman felt intoxicating. Our first real conversation happened when he offered to spot me on the bench press. His hands hovered near the bar, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and intentional, not the Old Spice Robert had worn since college. "Your form is perfect," he said, though I knew it wasn't. "How long have you been working out?" "About 6 months," I replied, racking the bar and sitting up, aware of how my sports bra clung to curves that had recently emerged from under layers of mom clothes. "It shows. Your husband's a lucky man," he said, eyes flicking to my wedding ring. "He doesn't seem to notice," I heard myself saying, the lie slipping out easily. "Then he's blind." "You're stunning, stunning." Not beautiful in the way Robert said it, weighted with years and meaning. Stunning in the present tense, in the immediate, in the way that meant I was worthy of pursuit. When Christopher looked at me, he didn't see the woman who'd cried through 2 miscarriages before Emma, who'd gained 60 pounds with Tyler, who'd spent a year in therapy for postpartum depression. He saw a body, maintained, displayed, and somehow that simplicity felt like freedom. The flirtation escalated over weeks, each interaction carefully pushing boundaries. He'd text me after workouts, "Great session today." That blue set really shows your progress. I'd spend 20 minutes crafting responses that seemed casual but invited more. "Thanks. Still feeling sore from those lunges you showed me." I started timing my workouts to match his schedule. Started wearing matching sets instead of Robert's old t-shirts. Started doing my makeup before the gym, telling myself it was for confidence, not for the way Christopher's eyes lit up when he saw me walk in. "Incredible progress," he'd text back. "Your hard work is paying off." What I heard was, "You're still desirable. You still have value. You're not invisible." The first time I slept with Christopher was after Emma's high school graduation party. My house full of relatives, my husband grilling burgers for 50 people, my daughter radiant in her cap and gown, and all I could think about was the text Christopher had sent. "Saw your family photos on Facebook. That dress is incredible on you. When can I see it in person?" I told Robert I needed to run to the store for more ice. Instead, I drove to Christopher's apartment, still wearing my daughter's graduation party dress, and betrayed 20 years of marriage for 90 minutes of feeling wanted. The guilt afterward was crushing, but not as crushing as the need for more. Christopher made me feel young, desired, valuable in a way that had nothing to do with being someone's mother or wife. When he touched me, I wasn't a 43-year-old woman worried about crow's feet and cellulite. I was just a body he wanted, and somehow that felt like enough. The affair continued for 3 months. 3 months where I became an expert at deception, gym classes that ran long, work emergencies that didn't exist, girls' nights that were anything but. I'd tell Robert I was meeting Sarah for drinks and instead drive to Christopher's apartment, a sleek downtown loft that looked like a bachelor pad from a magazine, all leather and chrome and surfaces that showed no evidence of real life. The sex was athletic, performative, the kind you have when you're trying to prove something. Christopher would position me in front of his floor-to-ceiling windows, telling me how sexy I looked with the city lights behind me. He'd take pictures sometimes. Nothing explicit, he promised, just artistic shots of shadows and curves. I'd let him because in those moments, through his lens, I wasn't a 43-year-old mother of 2 with a mortgage and responsibilities. I was a woman worth photographing, worth wanting, worth risking everything for. "You're incredible," he'd say afterward, already reaching for his phone to check messages. "I can't believe someone like you is with someone like me." I should have heard what he was really saying, that this was temporary, that I was a novelty, that someone like me meant married and middle-aged and ultimately disposable. But I was too high on validation to parse the truth from the flattery. Meanwhile, Robert was trying to save our marriage without knowing it needed saving. He'd started coming home earlier, suggesting activities we used to do before kids, hiking at Turkey Mountain, trying new restaurants, even dancing lessons at the community center. "I feel like we're roommates," he said one night, holding my hand across the dinner table. "I miss us, Patty." "I miss my wife." "I'm right here," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I was thinking about Christopher's text, asking what color underwear I was wearing. "Are you?" Robert asked, and for a moment I thought he knew. But then he squeezed my hand and said, "I know I've been working too much." "I know I've let us get into a rut, but you're the love of my life, and I want to fight for us." He enrolled us in couples massage classes. He bought tickets to the symphony I'd mentioned wanting to attend years ago. He left post-it notes on my mirror with reasons he loved me. "Your laugh when you're really happy. How you still dance when you cook. The way you make everything better just by being there." Each gesture was a knife of guilt I couldn't acknowledge because acknowledging it would mean stopping, and I was too addicted to the high of being wanted by someone new. I justified it in 1,000 ways. I wasn't leaving Robert. I wasn't taking anything away from our marriage. I was just supplementing, filling a need he couldn't meet. The need to be validated by someone who didn't owe me compliments, who chose me without the weight of history and obligation. The other women cheating on their husbands will understand this. I felt powerful. For the first time in years, I controlled how others saw me, curated my own desirability. Christopher wanted me. Men at the gym noticed me. My Instagram followers grew. I was winning at the only game that seemed to matter anymore, staying relevant in a world that forgets women after 40. What I didn't realize was that I was playing a game where winning meant losing the only things that truly mattered. The end came the way these things always do, stupidly and preventably. I'd saved Christopher's number under personal trainer, but I'd forgotten to delete our text thread. More accurately, I'd grown careless, drunk on my double life. Robert rarely touched my phone because trust was the foundation of our marriage. Trust I was demolishing with every lie. It was a Saturday afternoon. Robert was in the garage rebuilding shelves while I was supposedly at the grocery store but actually at Christopher's, telling myself this would be the last time while knowing it wouldn't be. Emma needed to use my phone when hers died. She wanted to call a friend about prom dress shopping. Such a mundane teenage need that would unravel everything. She was sitting at the kitchen counter when I got home, my phone face down beside her. Her face was a mask I'd never seen before. "Mom," she said quietly. "Dad's in the garage." I knew immediately. The way she couldn't look at me, the way her hands shook slightly as she pushed my phone across the counter. The notifications were all there. Christopher's texts from that afternoon, explicit and unmistakable. "Emma, honey, I can explain." "Don't." She stood up, my daughter who'd inherited Robert's steady nature and my stubborn streak. "Just don't." "I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. I know what those messages mean. I know what you've been doing." She walked away, but turned at the doorway. "He loves you so much, Mom." "How could you?" I found Robert rebuilding a shelf, a mundane Saturday task that would mark the end of our marriage. When I told him, my words tumbling out in a rush of confession and justification, he set down his hammer carefully, so carefully, like it might explode if he wasn't gentle. "Who?" was all he asked. "Christopher, from the gym." "The one you said was just a friendly guy who helped with your workout routine?" His voice was deadly calm, the eye of a hurricane. "Robert, please, let me explain." 20 years, Patty." He turned to face me then, and I saw something die in his eyes in real time. 20 years I loved you, and you threw it away for what? Some guy with abs? Someone who made you feel pretty? "It's more complicated than that." "No, it's not." He picked up his hammer again, went back to the shelf. "It's actually very simple. You made vows. You broke them. End of story." "Robert, please. We can get through this. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want." "What I want?" He laughed, but it was hollow. "What I wanted was a wife who honored our marriage. What I wanted was to grow old with my best friend. What I wanted was to trust that when you said you were at book club, you were actually at book club." He stood up, dusted off his hands. "I'll pack a bag." "We'll figure out the details later." "Where are you going?" "My brother's. And Patty, that personal trainer of yours, I hope he was worth our children's respect. I hope he was worth 20 years. I hope he was worth everything." Robert moved out that night. Not dramatically. He just packed a bag and went to his brother's house. The divorce was swift and surgical. 20 years dissolved in 6 months. He gave me everything the law required and nothing more. No fights, no drama, just the quiet dismantling of a life while I stood there realizing that validation from strangers couldn't pay a mortgage or hold me when I cried or laugh at inside jokes built over decades. Christopher lasted exactly 2 weeks after Robert left. Once I was available, really available, the thrill was gone. I wasn't a conquest anymore. Just a middle-aged woman with stretch marks and baggage and needs beyond the physical. He let me down easy, said he wasn't ready for something serious, as if destroying my marriage for him hadn't been serious. I saw him at the gym a month later with a 28-year-old blonde and understood with crystal clarity that I'd been nothing but an ego boost, a notch on his belt labeled, "Still got it with the married ones." My children took Robert's side, as they should have. Emma deferred college for a year, too disgusted to take money from the woman who'd betrayed her father. Tyler, sweet Tyler, who'd always been a mama's boy, looked at me like I was contaminated. They see Robert every weekend and have dinner at his new apartment where he's learning to cook for one. They see me when obligated, holidays and birthdays where we all pretend I didn't blow up our family for the chance to feel young again. The house sold in the divorce. My half wasn't enough for anything comparable, so I moved to this apartment where the walls are thin and the neighbors fight, and nobody knows I used to have a life worth envying. I work full-time now, needing the money I never worried about when Robert handled our finances. My Instagram account sits dormant, hard to post hashtag living my best life when your best life is behind you and you're the only one to blame. But the cruelest irony? I'm more invisible now than I ever was at 40. Single women over 40 aren't exotic or interesting or worth pursuing. We're cautionary tales, red flags, the reason men date younger. The validation I destroyed my life seeking dried up the moment I actually needed it. The gym bros who used to flirt now look through me. Dating apps are a wasteland of men seeking no drama, which is code for no woman who might have a history. The Instagram likes stopped coming when my posts went from gym selfies to inspirational quotes about starting over. Robert, meanwhile, is thriving in that quiet way of his. Still the same steady, reliable man, just without the wife who couldn't appreciate what she had. My friends, former friends really, tell me he's dating someone from his office. Age-appropriate, kind, appreciates him in all the ways I forgot to. They're taking it slow, but she makes him smile in a way he hadn't in years. Years when I was too busy seeking validation from strangers to notice I'd stopped validating the one person who mattered. So this is my PSA, my warning from the other side of disaster. That validation you're seeking? It's worthless. Those likes, those flirty messages, that attention from someone new. It's cotton candy, sweet for a moment, then dissolved to nothing. It can't warm your bed when you're sick, can't share inside jokes, can't hold your hand through your parents' funeral, can't look at you with eyes that see past the surface to the person you really are. Your husband who tells you you're beautiful when you feel anything but? That's not obligation. That's love, speaking in the only language it knows, constancy. The man who works overtime to pay for your daughter's braces, who sits through your mother's stories for the 100th time, who still reaches for your hand after decades together. That's not boring. That's precious. That's irreplaceable. That's what you can't buy back once you've sold it for compliments from men who won't remember your name in 6 months. I know you feel invisible. I know 40 feels like a cliff you've fallen off while the world celebrates women half your age. I know your body doesn't look like it did at 25 and your husband doesn't chase you around the house anymore and sometimes you feel like a ghost in your own life. I know because I felt all of that, and I let it convince me that external validation could fill the holes that only self-acceptance can fill. But please learn from my mistake. That restlessness you feel isn't about your husband or your marriage or how others see you. It's about how you see yourself. And destroying the life you've built won't make you feel younger or more desirable or more valuable. It will make you a 43-year-old woman in a one-bedroom apartment, scrolling through photos of your husband's new girlfriend, understanding too late that you had a treasure and traded it for fool's gold. The affair partner who made you feel alive? He'll move on to someone newer, younger, more exciting. The friends who encouraged you to live your truth and find yourself? They'll gossip about your downfall while clutching their own marriages tighter. The children who once thought you could do no wrong? They'll look at you with eyes that have seen behind the curtain, knowing their mother chose temporary validation over their family's foundation. And you? You'll be exactly where I am, more invisible than ever, but now without the one person who saw you clearly and loved you anyway. You'll have your validation in past tense, screenshots of old messages from someone who's already forgotten you, while the man who remembered every anniversary, every inside joke, every small detail of your shared life builds new memories with someone who recognized his worth. To the women reading this who feel unseen, undesired, unvalued, I understand. The world is cruel to aging women, bombarding us with messages that our worth diminishes with every wrinkle, every gray hair, every pound gained since our 20s. But please believe me when I tell you that seeking validation through betrayal isn't the answer. It's drinking salt water when you're thirsty, momentarily satisfying, but ultimately leaving you more parched than before. To the men reading this, whose wives seem distant, who've maybe started dressing differently, or staying out later, or guarding their phones. Pay attention. Not with suspicion, but with intention. Remember that woman inside the mother, the wife, the role she's played for so long she might have forgotten who she is outside of it. Tell her she's beautiful and mean it. Notice the effort she puts into maintaining herself in a world that tells her she's past her prime. Don't let her become so starved for validation that she seeks it in places that will destroy you both. And to Robert, who will never read this but deserves to hear it, I'm sorry. You loved me at 23 with acne and anxiety. You loved me at 30 with baby weight and postpartum depression. You loved me at 40 with wrinkles and gray hair and a body that showed its age. You loved me consistently, constantly, without condition. And I repaid that love by deciding it wasn't enough because it came too easily. You deserved a wife who understood that being loved completely is the rarest gift in this world. Instead, you got me, and I am so deeply, permanently sorry. I'm sharing this humiliation publicly because somewhere out there is a woman like me, standing at the crossroads between contentment and catastrophe, holding her phone with a message from someone who isn't her husband, telling herself it's just harmless flirting, just a little excitement, just what she needs to feel alive again. To her, I say, delete the message, block the number. Go home to the man who's loved you through every phase of your life. Look at him, really look at him, and see the treasure you're about to throw away for momentary sparkle. You can't put a price on someone who truly loves you. I know because I sold mine for compliments and attention and the illusion of youth, and now I live with the bankruptcy of that choice every single day. My husband loved me for 20 years, and I traded that for 3 months of feeling desired by someone who didn't even know my middle name. Don't be me. Don't become a cautionary tale your friends whisper about, a statistic in the infidelity columns, a woman pushing 50 alone in an apartment she can't afford, finally understanding that visible to strangers means nothing when you're invisible to the people who matter. Choose the love that sees you at your worst and stays. Choose the steady hand that's held yours through decades. Choose the man who might not make your heart race anymore, but who makes it safe. Because one day, probably sooner than you think, you'll need that safety more than you need the thrill. You'll need someone who knows your history, your fears, your dreams that evolved from 20 to 40 to whatever comes next. You'll need someone who chose you not just when you were young and firm and exciting, but who chooses you still when you're neither of those things, but you're real and you're present and you're his. That someone is not waiting for you on a dating app or at a gym or in your Instagram DMs. He's probably sitting in your living room right now watching TV, completely unaware that you're contemplating throwing him away for a fantasy that will evaporate the moment it becomes reality. Don't do it. Trust someone who knows. The price of validation is everything that ever truly validated you, and you won't know its true worth until you've already spent it and can never, ever get it back. This is my story, my warning, my penance. I am Patricia, 43 years old, and I destroyed my life chasing youth and validation. Learn from my stupidity. Your husband's love might not make you feel 25 again, but it will make you feel something far more valuable, truly seen, deeply known, and permanently cherished. Hold on to that. It's worth more than all the Instagram likes in the world.